Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will be taking how to make hip and butt pad, alright, as a tight, alright. Let's get into it. This angle would serve as my side, here would serve as my waist. So I'm going to create a borderline for my waist, alright. So I'm just going to measure 1/2 inch, alright, on the borderline. First things first, we are creating our trouser pattern. So this is a 2-in-1 tutorial where we'll be explaining how to make our trouser on pattern and then explaining how to make our hip and butt pad, okay? All right, so my measurements for this video, I'm going to state them all on this pattern paper. So I'm going to mark out my horizontal measurements first, all right? So what are my horizontal measurements? My waist to hip is my horizontal measurements, my waist to knee, my waist to trouser length, my waist to my body rise. Those are my horizontal length, all right? Starting my waist to hip, 9. My waist to body rise is 11. My waist to my trouser length, or my tight length, excuse me, so I'm using 18. Okay, so I'm dividing my hips by 4, I'm dividing my waist by 4, and I'll be dividing my laps by 2. Okay, I hope you got that. I will start imputing my measurements, with starting with my hips. So my hips is 35 divided by 4, that's about 8.75. So remember I said this part of my paper is the side of my trouser, the side of my tights, okay? I'm going to mark that answer or that result all the way to my waistline. I hope you understand. I'm going to take this measurement all the way to my body rise, okay? This will be my crotch line, okay? This is my crotch. How is crotch spelled? Crotch line. Okay, so now to mark out our waist measurements. The waist measurement will be marked from this mark here. I hope you can see this. From this point here outward. Okay, so divide your waist by 4. Your answer, mark it from here outward. So my waist is 25 divided by 4, that's 6.25. So I'm marking that outward like I said. I hope you got that. So I'm connecting my waist mark to my hip line. You see me doing. Now on your body rise measurements, impute your lap measurements. On your body rise line, rather, impute your lap measurements, which is your lap divided by 2. Like I said, my lap is 21 divided by 2. I have 10.5. Okay, so I'm going to mark that from here out, 10.5. To get your crotch arc, use a protractor to get the angle 45 or the angle 90 degree of this mark. Okay, this is not entirely necessary, but it just helps you. It's just a guide of some sorts, okay, to help you better. So mark your 1 inch along this line. I hope you understand. And then of course use a pattern master to connect this. Moving on, measure the distance from your side to your crotch depth here, okay? Measure the distance you have on this line and divide the answer by 2, all right? So I have 10.5, I divide that by 2, I have 5.25, okay? I'm going to mark that answer all the way to my tight length so I can get a straight line. Mind you, this does not serve as your dart leg or anything, okay? It's just so we're able to measure out our round tie or round lap around here, okay? So on the opposite end of this line, impute your round tie. So now I didn't state that when we're listing out the measurements that will be required, but wherever it is that you decide to choose as your tight length, measure round that place, okay? In my case, my round tie there is 16.5. Whatever answer you have, divide it by 4. Okay, that's 4.125. So I'm going to impute that answer on both sides of this line. I hope you understand. Connect this mark to this mark. Okay, so I didn't like that curve, so I need another one outside. All right, so connecting this to... Once you're done with all of that, come back to your waistline and come down by 0.75. Okay, the back should be higher than your front, when it comes to trousers. So I'm going to come down by 0.75, and then have a slope over here. Okay, so this is our front pattern. Okay, so now let's drop the back. So the back pattern would be done on this same paper. All we need to do is just to extend the lines that we have. All right, so once you potted everything you have on your front pattern to your back pattern, now you had your extra 2 inches. So you'll be adding extra 2 inches on the crotch, okay, on this side of your pattern. So okay, so this is our back pattern. I hope you understand. Now for your back pattern, right, we've added 2 inches extra here. It is understandable that we're doing it around the whole part because of the bum, but on this waistline, our waistline is still going to be the same regardless. So we need to have a dart, okay? So I'm going to measure from this distance to this distance. I have 8.25. I'll divide that by 2. That's 4.1. So I'm marking 4.1 up onto my hip line. So this will be considered my dart leg, okay? So I would not be having darts on my front pattern, just on my back. I would only have that on my back, okay? So this is my dart leg, all right? So because this 2 inches is on our waist, like I said, there is no bum on your waist. Your waist is how it should be in front. It should be firm. So we need to spread out these 2 inches. Depending on what your waist to hip is, my waist to hip is 9. I wouldn't want my dart leg to be too long. I wouldn't want it to be too long or too short either. So I'm going to stick to 5.5. 5.5. So this is our dart. Okay, this is our dart. Now we've completed our basic trouser pattern. Let us move to our hip padded tights. Okay, so I'm maintaining the same pattern, but we're just going to add the extra measurement. So as you can see, I already added my extra paper to my front pattern. I already extended my lines, my hip line, my body rise, and my tight length. Okay, so my hip is 35, okay, and I want the hip pad, I want my new hip to be 39. All right, so I want to move from 35 to 39. Okay, so meaning we are adding 4 inches. I'm able to add 4 inches because the material I'm working with, the foam I'm working with, is a 1 inch foam. Okay, so 1 inch on every side of my pattern. That's 1 inch on my front for left leg, 1 inch on my back for left leg. That's 2 inches. Same goes for my right leg. Do you understand? So that's 4 inches. So I can move from 35 to 39. So now moving on, my 39 inches will be my new hip measurement. Okay, so dividing this by 4 divided by 4, we should have 9.75. Okay, I remember that on the old one we had 8.75 when we used 35. So literally that means I'm adding just 1 inch to this hip measurement. So I would go ahead to add my 1 inch just outside this mark here. Repeat the same thing on my body rise. Okay. Okay, so this is my new hip measurement. All right, so I'm connecting the same hip back to my normal waist. Okay, so because this is a hip tight, our main fabric will be cut using this pattern that we're working with. Okay, that's the fabric you're working with, whether you're working with lycra or crepe, though I will be using a crepe material for this tutorial. So a few things would change on this pattern. I hope it doesn't confuse you, but a few things would change. Remember on our very first pattern that we did, we measured the distance between from this point to this point. That's our body rise line, and we got the midpoint, connected that all the way to the trouser, sorry, to the tight length. We're going to repeat the same thing here, so that's going to shift, that's going to shift our crease line. This is called a crease line. That's going to shift our crease line inward a bit. So measuring this distance. Okay, so you no longer need this line. Since this crease line has moved, that means our measurement here too is going to shift. Okay, so it's nothing alarming. All right, all you need to do is just repeat the same measurement here. So remember I said my round tie, that's the one around the down one anyway, is 16.5. okay, divided by 4, I got a quarter of that is 4.125. So I'm repeating that same 4.125 here. Please don't get confused. If you have any questions, ask me in the comment section and I'll be sure to respond. I'm going to erase this so it is not confusing. And I hope you see how I connect this. So the one you see inside is our old basic pattern, right? The one outside is our new padded pattern. So this is what concerns us. The green lines is our business. So I'm going to label this front. So moving on to the back, repeating the same thing that we did for the front or for the back. Okay. All right. Now that I'm done highlighting the parts needed for my back pattern, I'm going to cut out my front part. I'm going to separate them. Okay, so remember on our front pattern, it came down by 0.75, right? On our back pattern, we'll be going up by 0.5 along the crotch. Okay, but before we do that, I want to close my darts. I don't exactly like working with darts, again, especially on trousers. Okay, so remember I said we're going to raise this high by 0.5. So I'm going to mark that out now. I'm going to come up here by 0.5 inch. Okay, I have exactly 0.5 here. Okay, so no stress. I hope you see what I'm doing. Ooh. I'm connecting that to my waist, but because I closed my darts, I need a little extra paper. Let me just add a little extra paper to that point. Okay, so I'm connecting the ½ inch up here to my waist. So like I said, this closing of the darts is not necessary. I'm doing this because I want to. Okay, my waist is still going to be my waist. Can you see that? So this is me confirming that my waist is still my waist, 6.25. All right, I'm going to cut out my back pattern and my front pattern. I'm cutting off camera. All right, so as you can see, I've cut out my my tights on my fabric. So I eventually used a Duchess fabric because I couldn't get a crepe fabric to work with. So yeah, as you can see, two pieces each per pattern. Okay, front, back. All right, so to start with my front pattern, I will come down by 1 inch along the side. Okay, it wouldn't make sense for your hip pad or your foam to start from your waistline exactly. So I'm coming down by 1 inch, just as you see me doing, and I want the length of my tights. This is the length of my tights, right? 18 inches. I want the length of the pad that will be inside the tights to be 15 inches long. Okay, so the reason why I'm going for 15 inches is because I want it to blend in very well. Okay, I don't just want it to pop out and then that's just it. So 15 inches. That's 3 inches above. Alright, so let me just follow this line. So this line is my pad length, is my hip pad length. Alright, this particular line. So you see this mark that we have here, I'm going to connect it to my 1 inch down. Then from here, I'm also going to connect to my sides. I hope you understand. I don't think I like this point, so I don't like the way it's too pointy to the front. So I think I'm going to reduce this by ½ inch. Okay. So meaning I'm measuring 5.25 from my hip line inward. Raise the first one so it doesn't confuse us. I'm cutting this 2 times. Okay. This is for the front. Now for the back, the little tweak would have for the back is we're going to be adding an extra horizontal line, and that line is going to be our butt line. Okay, so when you're taking your measurements as well, take your back waist to your butt line. Make sure it sits under your butt. Okay, so what I took mine was 13.5. So I'm marking 13.5. Okay, so this measurement is important. It's actually very important because we'll be using it to curve the butt area. All right, so let's call this the butt line. Let's just say BL. So butt line, this particular line. Now remember, we came up by 3 inches on our front pattern. We came up by 3 inches because I want my pad to stop here. So I'm going to repeat the same thing, coming up by 3 inches. Butt line, pad line, whatever. Okay, so now to do the same thing for your back, remember we came down by 1 on the sides of the wrists. Repeat the same thing on the back, come down by 1 inch here. Okay, and then around your hip area, around your hip area, let me measure what I have here. So I have 5.875. I don't want it too obvious. I don't want it too much, to be very honest. Let me see what 7 looks like. Again, you can play on these figures, okay? You can use between 6 to 7. So I think I'm going to use 6.5. I wouldn't want it looking too weird. So I think I'm going to use 6.5, okay? Alright, so I'm connecting here to the 6.5 here. And then on my butt line, I'll measure 3 inches inward. Let's just increase the 7 inches. Okay, so I have this shape, but I feel like this still looks a little bit weird. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch. I'm going to increase the length of my pad by 1 inch on both my front and my back. Came down by 1 inch in front, repeating the same thing for the back. The reason for that is because I want this to blend in very well into my tights. Okay, I don't want it looking weird. So since we already cut out our short on fabric, I'm just going to cut this out, okay? Also, we're going to note that this is our side, okay? Up, label as much as possible, down, label the pieces, so you don't get confused. This is our, let's just call it center front. For here, we'll call it our center back. This is our side, this is the up, and this is the down. Okay, now we are done. Okay, so this is how they will join together. Okay, see this, this is how they will be joined together. So let's move to cutting our foam. So as you can see, I've cut out the foams, right? 2 foams per pattern, so 2 for the back, 2 for the front. Okay, so this is the 1 inch foam they'll sell to you at the carpenter store if you want to get from the carpenter store. So I've seen people use fiber instead of foam. I don't know, if that works, but yeah, either way, they're both going to get flat eventually. So yeah, now we're going to use your stay, to conceal all of this. But before we conceal this, I'm going to trim off the center back and the center front. So this is our side, this is our side. We're going to trim off the center back and the center front, okay? So the point is to have our hip exaggerated, which is this side, okay? So leave that side untouched. So let your focus be on these sides, okay? You see how these sides have reduced? They need to decline so they can ease well into whatever you're wearing. I hope you can see this well. It declines. Can you see the way it declines? Okay. All right. So as you can see, I already trimmed off the edges of my pads. Okay. So the parts where I did not touch are my sides. Do not touch the sides, like I said, but trim off the center back and the center front. The next thing we do is to conceal the foam with our Estee. Okay. So conceal it. Press your Estee on it and just cover it up. So I'm going to do that and come back to show you. All right, so as you can see, I've gone ahead to use my Estee on my pads. Okay, so I want to take into something, right? This is one part of my pad. So you can see here it's totally concealed, and I kept allowance here. Let's call it allowance, right? So this is like a 1 inch allowance that I'll be using rather to join to the pants or to the shorts. Okay, so you see how this part is smooth. This is the center front. This is the part that should blend into your tights, like into the front part of your tights. Now here is going to be the side. Okay, so this is the two parts. Now this is my short pieces. I have 2 pieces for my front. I have 2 pieces for my back, obviously, right? So I'm going to pick them one by one, okay? And I'm going to join them to my shorts. I hope you can see how I placed this. So this is one of my front pieces. Of course, you come down by 1.5 inches. Now, the reason why we're coming down by 1.5 inches is because there is a 1/2 inch above here to, close the waist. And then the 1 inch we came down by on our trouser pattern, on our short pattern, okay? So you calculate that before you sew this in, okay? So I'm sewing it with 1 inch, like this, along this line. All right. So this is the piece that will be going to this particular front, okay? It's going to be like this. I hope you understand what I'm doing. So this is for my second pant. See. So we're going to sew along this lines, all right? So I have joined my front to my back. As you can see, this is what it looks like, okay? So after you must have sewn them individually to the fabric, also make sure you sew along the center back and the center front, okay? So it keeps it down on the fabric. See what it looks like on the outside. Can you see this? Okay, this is my bottom area. This is my front. Repeat the same thing for the other side and we have this. So just like we make our normal trouser, next thing to do is to join our crotch, okay? So join the crotch of this first piece like this together. Let it stand as one leg like this. Then do the same thing for the second piece. That will serve as the second leg. So join with whatever allowance you use to cut, okay? And complete your trouser, basically. Complete your shorts.
Thank you for watching, and I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. Do not forget to subscribe, and if you have questions, also leave a comment. I'll be in the comment section waiting. See you in my next video.